Hello, welcome everyone. Audience, I cannot tell you how thrilled I am that you're here and how excited I am to be able to introduce you all to the lovely Kathleen Carlson. Kathleen, she is a business professional's intuitive guide. And I'm going to ask you, Kathleen, to please expand upon that, an intuitive guide for business professionals. That's pretty cool. And how does that tie in to accountability? So please, we're just so excited to hear from you.
Oh, thank you, Carol. You know what? I'm thrilled to be here. And I just really want to give you kudos because I've had the pleasure of not only engaging with you a few times, but also many of the speakers that you brought to this project. And you know what? The apple never falls far from the tree, right? You have brought so many heart-centered, business-minded individuals together to share with your beautiful audience. Kudos to you. It's beautiful, and your team, because they're super supportive. And I love that.
Thank you.
And I love this topic, accountability to success. Yes, I am a leadership and intuitive leadership coach at this point. I spent 50 plus years in corporate America. I'm sorry, 50 years. That makes me a little bit old. 30 years in corporate America in a Fortune 50 company. Now, I reverse those numbers a little bit. And I got to watch a lot of people in that business, and I was one of them. And now I'm out in the world on my own after retirement, and I get to guide and lead professionals who want to take on leadership in the world, who are taking on leadership in the world. And thank goodness for them, right? It's just so good. So accountability and success. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You cannot have one without the other.
Mm-mm.
And when I think about it, accountability really is the fast track to accountability, to success, right? It almost doesn't matter where it is. And even if you've never thought about it, I love that you're diving into it, because how many people think about that consciously? We probably really kind of don't, right? But it's time that we should, or we could, because my experience, I work with tens of thousands of people over the span of my career. And I can tell you that those that value accountability in their core values, and learn to develop it, because like it's a skill, it's a value. You might value something and not really have mastered it yet, but the people that come in and really master that accountability get to the success way, way faster. And you can just think of any area of life. You know, if you want to think about sports, right? I'm sports minded. So when you think about some of the greatest, I saw an interview, I think last week, with Tom Brady. Now, there's a lot of athletes that are born with natural God-given talents. And we all are, right? We all have God-given talents for sure. But what made Tom Brady stand out? His ability to take accountability for his life, for his sport. And in his interview, he talked about, you know, the guy that walks in and thinks they're just going to do what everybody else does is going to land just like everybody else does. It's that person that says, hey, the way my life turns out is completely a result of how I act and the decisions I make. And hold yourself accountable for them and to them. So there's no secret, whether it's business, sports, relationship, it plays a role in every area of your life. Every area.
Every area. And I love the Tom Brady example. It's such a beautiful example. And you know, Kathleen, I think that in my experience and from these wonderful conversations, sometimes the piece that's missing, interestingly, is accountability to oneself. And if we start there, all of a sudden there's more self-esteem. You know, we can all muscle through things with self-confidence, but self-esteem and a trustworthiness and integrity to oneself is a game changer on every level. And you've worked with all these thousands of people. And so you have watched leaders rise. And I'm just going to guess that those that are accountable to themselves are the ones that, like you said, are on the fast track to whatever success looks like for them in all areas of life. Is that a correct statement?
Oh my gosh. I love where you're going with this. And I feel so passionate about this piece of it when you talk about accountability, because it's really the key. It's the crux of it, right? So when we're young, people teach us how to be accountable, right? Our parents give us something to do. Did you do it? You're either in trouble or you're in graces. That's sort of what accountability, feels like as you're growing and learning. It's the same thing in business, right? So you take something on and you're responsible and you're accountable to the result. It's kind of the buck stops here, right? So there is a reason, and there are probably multiple reasons why some people get there quicker, right?
Mhm.
Some people say, you know what, there's people born with leadership skills as well, but not everybody rises to the top. Not everybody gets where they want to go. And
Mhm.
what I like to look at, and what I do look at a lot with my clients now, is what's keeping you from getting there? Where's the muscle that hasn't been developed? And almost like Stephen Covey says, the key to learning is to make a promise and keep it.
Mm.
And when you talk about why we don't hold ourselves accountable, I think it's pretty well known by now. The one person we are willing to let down over and over again is ourselves. We're
Yes.
willing to lie. We're willing to tell ourselves tomorrow will be better with no action behind it. So are we out of integrity? Yeah, yeah. But here's why. Because we make promises to ourselves and others, frankly, but to ourselves, because that's the key to this, too casually, too lightly. We think we want everything everybody else has, and we fail to go inside and question,
Mm.
what is it I really want?
Mhm.
Right. And if you think it's, and it goes across all areas. If you're a business person, it's logical. You set a goal, you look at the piece, and you're going to be responsible for how this turns out, right? So you set that goal, you look at all the pieces, the resource needed, the time, and you kind of work that. You get burned a couple times and you get better at that. You get better, and then you kind of learn to sort of walk away from certain projects because you can't do it, and there's going to be a burn on the other side. If we could take that into our personal life and say, wait a
Mm.
minute, do I really want this? And
Mhm.
how does this fit in with all the other key areas in my life?
Mhm.
What's it going to require? Am I willing to do it? If we put everything through that litmus test, 90% of what we promise, we wouldn't promise, because we know right away we're not going to do it.
Mm.
How many women, how many men get up every day and say, I swear to God, I'm not going to eat chocolate today.
Ah.
And then you got a candy bar in your pocket, and so then you beat yourself up, get to the core of it. When you align that goal with what you really know you want by taking the steps to get clear. And
Mm.
that's where I start with all my clients. What do you really want? A startling statistic, less than 2% of the population can answer that question with any kind of clarity. We all know what we don't want,
That's right.
but what do we want? I mean, specifically, if you had to be held accountable for every piece of that, down to the last grain, would you really want it? Would it really be worth what's going to happen? So to me, it's always fast forward, reverse engineer it.
Yes.
What is this thing you think you want, this thing you desire in the moment, good or bad?
Mhm.
Is it going to get you to where you're going to go? And if you can answer that with a no and stop yourself, great. If you can answer that with a yes, then go for it. But that's why it's so easy to be out of integrity with ourselves, because few of us take the time, the energy, and get to know the inside of us and say, what do I really value?
I love that. I couldn't agree more. isn't it something that and it's not that it's not important to know what we don't want. I think
Yeah,
that's great information.
it's great information.
It's just not enough information because if
Just
that's what
start.
we're focusing on, we're kind of still going towards that because it's getting focus and energy.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
exactly to what you're saying, which, and I love the way that you're sharing this, is clarity, clarity. Because if we really dive into what we say we want, we will be willing, everything is a sacrifice. There's always, you know,
Cause and effect, right?
cause and effect. And, doing something we love, it doesn't feel like sacrifice. It's kind of a good test. Like,
It
oh,
is.
I did all this today and I loved it. Somebody said, you work so hard. And if you're able to say, it doesn't seem like work, I love it.
That's right.
I mean, it's
That's
kind of it's a nice test. I love the importance of the clarity. So, Kathleen, it's so interesting when you would work with these business professionals, thousands and thousands, tens and 10, 20,000 of them over your professional life in that area.
oh, for sure.
Did you often, did the people that you worked with and collaborated with, did you all meet with these individuals in groups and individually and actually in the corporate world at this time, however many years ago this was there a meeting and say, okay, let's have a workshop. Let's talk about this personal, professional, and financial. What are your goals? I think in our professional lives, I believe we're turning a corner, and certainly we are all for this. Let's get in
Yeah.
conversation about what we want. And let's talk about what that means and what those steps are, not just the learning, but the actual taking of action of those things. And I think more companies are starting to ask the question, and here we want to talk about this individually. What do you even think? Even if you don't know, you got to start. What do you think you
Hmm.
want personally? Who do you want to be in 10 years? You
Well,
know,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
don't you think that in the corporate world, I don't know that that used to be a conversation.
Well, here's the missing piece, and or it's the piece that the smart leaders, the companies that are really knocking it, out of the park, the ones that are attracting these employees. You always hear, um, employment's the number one thing. Nobody can get the right employees. Nobody can get them to stay. Well, that's not true. Nobody and never are not always true, right? They don't line up. The smart people, sure. Of course, every company worth its salt has a mission. They know what they need. And as far as goals, that's your litmus test, dollars in sales. If I didn't make my sales and my gain profit, I didn't have my job. So accountability was crucially built in, right? But
Yeah.
that's at a higher level. Now I've got 2,000 plus people, and for anybody out there running a business, you you're not enough to get that done. Okay, we need everybody else. And here's the missing piece that I think a lot of people overlook right now. You just think you can drive people, but
Yeah.
everybody, just like setting your goals and then having them be the right goal, you're going to hold yourself accountable because you're knocking it down. You're getting where you want to go. Well, when you just go out to a group of employees and piecemeal what they need to do, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You got to share that big vision. And it may not be dollars and cents, it may be growth, it may be whatever it is, but you share that big vision and you not only get their buy in, but you share with them their important role in it.
Mm,
That's leadership.
mm.
They say if you think you're leading and you look behind me and nobody's there, you're just really out for a walk. So you can stand up there and mouth what you want, but until you give me a reason to engage, whether that's financial, I'm going to get money if I do, or it's heart centered, or because people want to work for companies that are doing more than just driving the bottom line. And all companies are, they don't always tout it for sure. But
Right.
tell me what's in it for me. That's the human nature.
Sure.
Engage me at every level, whether this is a beginning employee or somebody that's been around a long time.
Mhm.
It's the same, and it's the same for your person. Make it mean something.
Ah,
And as importantly, get rid of the things that don't mean anything. Whether we get that clarity, but then you also have to have the time and the energy and all that. So what are you doing that you don't need to be doing?
mm. Yeah, 100%. And I think I feel like it was Zig Ziglar. Everybody knows his name, but
Yep, yep, yep.
I believe he said people will do very happily whatever it is you need them to do if they understand why they're doing it.
Yep.
And then if you begin these relationships with the people that you're collaborating and working with and that you have hired to do a job, it needs to be also about why they want to work there and what are they looking for. These conversations are so important. And in the event people are fortunate enough to work for a company or work with you, and you're going to be asking those questions. Yet again, let's get back. You need to know clearly, like you said, 2% of the people can answer the question, what do you
Yeah,
want?
yeah.
And
And
so it gets back to accountability to oneself and in relationship and in integrity with oneself. So
100%.
I'd love to go on and on, but I want to back up a little bit because the title, your professional title as an intuitive coach,
Intuitive. Mm-hmm.
I would love for you to talk about how that is for you. What is this intuitive coaching that you do, and how does that work? It's fascinating.
Well, you know what's fun is I guess it comes with age, it comes with experience, it comes with getting confident in what you do. As in the corporate rat race, I was so concerned about, hitting those figures and doing everything everybody wanted to do. And I was operating from inside of here,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes, and this is when I split, when that contradicted with what I had in here,
Mhm.
and that happened the last several years that I still continued to do the job. More and more, it was what's in here.
Mhm.
And I've always been intuitive. I received the gift from God as a child, and I just knew things. I could hear things. I could sense things. Um, a really good example. I have a client, and we started out, and I said, "Tell me what you want." And she said, with bold enthusiasm, "I want to double my best year." I said, "I don't think that's what you want. Do you really?" And she said, "Yes, I do." We did the whole plan, the whole plan. Then she went missing. And I said, "Where are you?" And she said, "I'm quitting." And I'm like, "Okay, let's talk this out." Because I knew, but I had to let it simmer. She didn't want to, for her, doubling that meant more work, more this, more that. And I said, "Let's get in tune with what you really want. Here's what I'm getting." And
Mhm.
she's like, "Oh my God." And then there's things like, things that hold you back. It's like, okay, what happened to you when you were when you were 7 years old?
Right.
Or something happened when you were six with your dad. What was that? And then that uncovers itself. And that unleashed a big money block. And it was like, okay, okay. So these are things that I hear and that I get, and I have no way of knowing, but they're always so pertinent. And that's why I say guide. It's like anybody that comes to you and says they have all the answers, run, because they don't.
Right.
But if I get quiet, I'm connected to you. I don't even have to get quiet, but if
Certainly.
I'm connected to you, if I'm in your space, and I pray before I work with anybody, and I allow that energy to come in because that's a gift that God's graced me with.
Mm.
And just like an athlete with natural, athletic ability, you wouldn't throw that out and try to, do it the opposite way. I've learned to embrace all that I am. And I take my trunk full of skills that I learned in the corporate world and I marry them together, and my clients benefit and I benefit from that.
Oh my goodness. And I would love to continue on with this. And I know the audience is just really getting some wonderful pearls here. So thank you. And I want to correct the statement. I believe I said coach, and really it's guide. And
It's
that's
guide.
so beautiful. So I apologize if I didn't say that
Oh,
earlier. And I hope everyone else realizes it's an intuitive guide. I think that's a very significant, important difference. Since we can't continue to talk much longer, would you please share your beautiful gift that you're offering to the audience?
oh, 100%. You know, we talked a lot about how some people don't really know what's in their way, or people have really gained that muscle quicker and they've learned to value, they build their values because everything we do is around our values. So, what I have for everybody today is an empowerment assessment. This will give you, you know, in a quick 10-15 minute answer thing that we all kind of do. It's kind of gamified, right? You find out what it is that might be standing in your way. Because my true heart says, I'm put on this earth to help every person that I encounter to become the best that they can be. The power's really in them, and guiding them is what I'm supposed to do. And this is a good start. You take the assessment, and if you want, there's also an opportunity I'm gifting to your audience a chance to come in and schedule an appointment with me, and we'll look at that. And it's a complimentary appointment. We'll look at it. We'll see where you're at. I'll give you some guidance, and yeah, you'll benefit from it. So
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
yeah.
I know the audience wants to say thank you so very much. Um, what a pleasure to have had the opportunity to have this conversation and other conversations. I look forward to more. And
Me
I
too.
just thank you so very much. And I know the audience wants to say thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to the audience too for being here. I hope you got some nuggets. And I know through the whole summit, you're just going to get more than you bargained for because of this amazing woman.
Oh my goodness. It's nice when
Yeah.
a lot of other people make you look real good. So thank you so much and have such a wonderful evening. And we will talk very soon.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you again, audience.